Welcome, 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 guys. It's Chris Sandeman, back again for another live stream. It's going to be an interesting one today because of the fact that I mean, it's not like new knowledge. I'm running a little bit late. I first. In form, it is not along in the seeing some light. Got a bad feeling. I don't know. Hopefully not. Makes my mouth taste tart. Lag from the smells worse than a. Hey Jenny Jean, Purple Heart, good to see you. Ross brother, what's going on, my friend? All right, I got lag free again here. We'll see how this goes. I drive up here, and I didn't have a chance to walk the entire route. Actually, I didn't walk the route at all. I had to grab some quick lunch. I was starving. Forgot my water bottle. Michaela! Hey, Nadu. Danke, dass du hier bist. Colleen, what's up? Shout out to Colleen. Got some info that you can throw on in the chat. Colleen, it is. I'm gonna trespass on this person. To hopefully they won't freak out. Hopefully they're not home. Hopefully they don't shoot me if they are. And hey Rebecca, Jenny from Purple Heart over on YouTube. Appreciate it. But take a look, guys. I don't know if you. But anyway, it's my new great shirt. Thank you, Ross, for the compliment on it. Glad you like it. Yeah, you know, now I've got a little tie-dye action in this, but actually it worked out great because I'm up here in New Paltz, and New Paltz is so kind of like hippie thingy going on. Historic zone. Don't you look hot. As is the like getting collapses on us. Great. Awesome. Good news. Frack. Stable. You guys probably getting a little lag right now. Maybe it's, I'm hoping it's is causing us some stress, but I have a feeling you guys know if it's too much of a pain, then we will, you know, I'll shoot the video and then I'll upload it later on like we had to do with Kingston. I'm not too far away from Kingston, good old Wiltvik, as they used to call it. We're actually just a little bit south of there. And the town that we're in, New Paltz, is a town that was founded by Huguenots, or Huguenots, or Huguenots. They're pretty interesting. And did historical tours there. We talk about them because a lot of Huguenots or Huguenots ended up coming of Louis XIV, the Sun King. And Louis, Catholic, devout to his majority when he came into power, he revoked the Edict of Nantes. And the Edict of Nantes had granted Huguenots, French Protestants, followers of John Calvin, and opposed to like Reformation, and you've got Lutherans, you've got Catholics, and you've got Calvinists on the other, on the Lutheran side, Protestants. Protestants are Lutherans and Calvinists. Okay, so what's the difference between Lutherans and Calvinists? Huguenots were Calvinists, remember. The Protestants, Lutheran Protestants, were thinking that Holy Roman Catholic Church, super corrupt, we need to reform it, we need to fix it, and we need to stay part of this, but we need to bring the Catholic Church to the... The Calvinists were like, no, the Catholic Church is done. It's time to start our own church. We're going to do our own thing. And the Huguenots faced massive persecution in France throughout the, throughout the 15 and 1600s. Amongst the worst of it. And so much so that 150 Huguenots will end up leaving France in the 1600s, or 1600s, rather than stay and face these kind of Catholic pogroms, if you will. And it's really interesting, actually, because the word refugee, right, comes from French. We've taken it into English. And the very first refugee, they coined the word for them. Refugee was used to describe the Huguenots themselves. So these French Protestant Calvinists, especially, hey, what's going on? Is revoked. But I'd always thought that the Edict of Nantes was this kind of French Huguenots. Things better for them when, internet connection unstable. In this, come on, internet connection stable. I do. Stable for thing. Bad omen. To have an internet connection unstable means that see it, but on top of internet connection. Right now, the feedback. That's all we can do. We can walk on a little bit. Let's walk on. Just quickly take a look at this house for the internet later on. Hi there, hello. And what we're looking at over here is none other than the Frere House. It is unique among the stone. You guys, the lag is gone. I just started to talk about this building, so why don't I talk about it really quick. Hey Alexa over on Facebook, thanks for joining. A little bit of lag we just kind of had, and now looks like I'm in a better spot. Hopefully we'll be okay. But yeah, so here we are, the Free House, a unique one among the stone houses of the old historic Huguenot Street, which is where we are right now in New Paltz. We'll talk more about the history as we're walking along. And the reason why it's unique is at the time that Reverend John Follett, a Freer descendant, owned the house. He purchased and lived here in the 1940s. Well, originally the house was built in 1761, for none other than Rebecca Freer and her husband Johannes Löw, hence the Freer Löw House. Rebecca herself was the granddaughter of Hugo Freer, patentees. We'll talk about those guys in just a second. So after, in 1677, small, kind of modest wooden frame of land, because this street that we're on right now, historic as we go, this is the original New Paltz Street. Everything else expands out from here. So, so this is where one of these first houses would be. And it's cool because actually, if we can slip in the back without losing connection of the original stone extensions here towards the back of it. Rebecca, the original owner, built it by, check that out. Of course, how you would have gotten spinning around this next, just the age of some of these builds. I think the connection's gotten unstable again, unfortunately. For question, yeah, I think our good friend Hugo Freer would have built original wooden structure by hand, but by the time that this building was built in front of us here, the modern Freer Löw House, almost certainly it was not the owners building it themselves. Almost certainly it would have been enslaved African or African Americans who were building this building here, the expanded version of it at least, and that wasn't uncommon. The French Huguenots who settled in North America, who ended up in New York, here after La Rochelle, Rochelle is down in Westchester County, much closer to New York City than we are right now, or even the French Huguenots that ended up in Charleston, South Carolina. They owned slaves at a rate British settlers, British colonists. Dutch less so, British and French, yeah, about the same on that. So, well, Oscar, Rebecca's grandfather, was one of these patentees. And what happened was that a group of French Huguenots originated up by Calais in northwestern France. They had a Catholic, Huguenots of what's today in the 1600s. Germany was split up into all these different and all the rest of it. One, that Germany becomes like one Catholic kingdoms strewn around Germany, and they go to or der Pfalz, die Pfalz. Pfalz, time, these 7 families that will be the ones who end up coming eventually from Pfalz in Germany to New Netherlands, right? To the Dutch colony. Now, the Huguenots who flee, these 150 to 200,000 Huguenots who leave France, mostly in the 1600s, the majority of them go to Germany, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, England, and Netherlands, sorry. Most of them will go to those 4 places. And that's because, of course, those places all had either great religious tolerance or they were Protestants themselves. So they were welcoming these French Protestants away from Catholic. But these particular Calais, Paltz first in Germany, and then they moved to Wildwijk in New Netherlands, which was Kingston today. Much Michaela with our German accent. First they go to Wildwijk, Kingston, and then after a few years, we're going to move away from Wildwijk, and we're going to go and start our own. Suffered like all refugees, them based upon the fact that their religion was different. They spoke a funny language. They were weird. And in my research, a lot of people, refugees, same hundreds of years later, and what was the number one concern about these bloody Huguenots? They're taking our jobs when they arrive. So looking for increased independence and or self-governance, the patentees seek out a patent, which was kind of like a land grant for this area along the Valkil River. And Valkil is a Dutch word, or comes from Dutch, Val from being the Walloons. Walloons are like they're French-speaking Belgians, really. And then Kil is a Middle Dutch word kille, which means but it could be any water. But the Valkil, so river, let's say, well, look, we're going to make a deal and buy Esopus, the Esopus people, which are the Native Americans around this place. They spoke kind of an Algonquin, and they secure the land, and they move here. After, like where they'd lived for a while. It's way too difficult to say, so for English speakers, New Paltz instead of Pfalz. Of why that's called that. Okay, but we've got our next house here, even though we are suffering from a little bit of lag. Okay, lag is gone again. Here you have the Abraham Hosbrook house. Now the Hosbrooks are a big New Paltz family. Again, another one of these 12 founding men, right, from the 7 Huguenot families that move both from Kingston and from Hurley, another town to the west of here, and start New Paltz. Neu-Pfalz, New Paltz though. So this building, style construction, and hopefully still maintain our good connection. It was constructed between 1720 the farmer and local community grist mill owner, widowed mother. So for all the moms, widowed mom in. The house was later named Hosbrook, because he was it's gonna fathers of the and maintained in the period of the 1760s way, and his wife inherited the house and become the head of the household. Vince was actually one of the wealthiest landowners in New Paltz, and took charge of her late husband's estate, his businesses, and then went on to raise 7 children. 7 children together, 6 of whom actually would later on serve, within a few decades, would serve in the Revolutionary War. Oh, hi, Lena. From Canada, this is, it's Tage, it's you on your mom's account. Better than Facebook right now. Yes, yeah. Good to see you, bro. Paint on the windows and the doors. Nice accents, yeah, totally. I'm glad that the lag is gone too now for a second here, which is good. So we were just talking about Vince, who has a very Dutch sounding name, and her fighters up here in New Paltz. Also, it's just, I think a lot of the information that's out there about these buildings will also make a point of mentioning the sense point that Rebecca asked before, who built. It's indicated that 4 enslaved individuals also lived and worked in. Women in New Paltz would likely have found themselves living or being imprisoned in the confines of the cellar underneath this building. A pretty stark contrast. Lap of luxury and comfortable lifestyle the Hasbrook family would have been enjoying upstairs. Now, apparently, somewhere on the back of this building, there is a heart hidden in scavenger hunt thing. Think of the movie. I know. Eric in the house. Mahalo, my friend. And sorry for being quiet to the screen. Killing me. How old is this? Maybe you said so before. Oh yeah, sure, no problem, Stage. This house was originally built in 1721, but there was also a construction phase later on in 1734. Today the house is maintained as it would have looked more or less in the 17. That makes sense and helps. Oh, I found the heart. Little key heart. Great question. Facebook, are people they empty and like just museums at this point? And Ross, it's not just a great question because it's a question that I'd like to know the answer to. It's a great question because I don't know the answer. I actually have no idea. I imagine that they're like, oh, actually, I think I do know. A lot of these historic houses, specifically on this street, were bought up. Local Huguenot and Preservation Society. They're founded at the end of the 1800s, and they're put in place to try to preserve the quality and the look and feel of New Paltz. as well as the Huguenot heritage of New Paltz, which was one that people could be pretty proud of. So the answer is they are owned, in my understanding, the vast majority of the old houses, the historic houses, are actually owned by the local historic society, who had the goal of preserving the houses after one of the houses, which we're actually going to see later on, which was this old Dutch style house, was renovated by a wealthy new owner. And when they did renovate that house, they look and feel and instead converted it into a more modern Queen Anne style house, which the community. So as a result, they found the Historical Preservation Society to like start putting money together to look and feel of the community. So already by the end of the 1800s, which is pretty early actually, and speaks to the fact that it was also like Huguenot related most likely. Just showing you guys over here is the New Paltz Reformed Church. The church actually traces its roots to 1683, just 5 years after the patentees settle New Paltz, those 12 individuals who signed up for the deed for this land grant over here. The present church that we're looking at actually isn't, because clearly this doesn't look like it's from 1683, but the fact is that this is actually the fourth church built over time in New Paltz by the colonists and their descendants. So you already had 3 previous churches in this space, you know, on this area. So when they dismantled the last church from 1773, which was built in 1773, they take one of the cornerstones from that church and they place it in this church to build up this church, which is, you know, Greek Revival 1839. And in fact, if we look nice and close over here, there we go. How about that? There is an old cornerstone with the date 17. I understood it to be, but clearly 1772. Old church, and this building so basically dismantled the last one, they put it into this one, so that way we'd have a little bit of the past here on this Greek Revival church built in the 1830s. So Ross asks, can you get to New Paltz via railroad from NYC, or do you have to drive? You actually have to, you can do either way. You can take the railroad up to Poughkeepsie, and then you could, I think, bus or taxi from there, or drive up. When I took the train last time, it was a lot faster, it felt like, than today, but I got stuck in a ton of construction and Friday afternoon traffic, so that sort of makes sense too. How far are you from Manhattan Pizza in distance? Like number of pizzas away, or just the, I'm about 71 miles from, or 75 miles from where I am house sitting in Brooklyn right now. And 71 miles took me 2.5 hours about. Just think about that. 2.5 hours to go 71. So, oh, and Colleen adds a great piece of information. You can take a bus from the Port Authority, which is a fascinating place to visit in New York. And I highly recommend it to New Yorker who've never been in there, because wow, buses leave from inside like a mall. It's weird. Okay, we're looking at the Husa House, and this is actually, I was just talking about these guys. It's historic Huguenot Street's main office, and they're the ones that bring a lot of the money to help support all of these other buildings being here still. So thank you very much, Historic Huguenot Street and your preservationist organizers. It's not just this administrative building, but it's also actually the Schoenmacher Library. We're going to talk about a library later on, a potentially haunted library, but that's not in the old historic Huguenot Street. We're going to walk through town a little bit in just a little while to be able to get a look at that. But this, it's the Hudson Valley. French and the Protestant religion, American and African American history and culture, as well as the archaeology and architecture pertaining to this specific site. They also have an extensive archival collection spanning the late 17th century through to modern days. Yeah, if you ever want to come and do some research here, you can, which is really neat. You can just reach out to them and let them know that you're planning to come. And you can come and make an appointment for free to come and research away. Okay. All right. So now we're going to be heading along. I believe this is my next building here. Yep. The Beaver Elting House. Now, the Beaver Elting House is also a very important one for us because it is believed to be the oldest surviving stone building here on Huguenot Street. So this is oldest building we're going to see today, guys, is right here. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's give ourselves a little bit of room. Okay. Yeah. That this building that was built for Louis Beaver and 1698 to 1703 has been here for, well over 300 years. Pretty impressive. The original structure was just in which the family all lived together, sharing their quarters prior to its expansion. And would you like to know how many people lived in that one room together? Well, oops. Do you think it was 3 people? 3 people, 5 people, or 7 people? How many people lived in one room together in this house back in the end of the beginning of the 1700s? We'll keep on looking at the building as you post your answers. Please let me know in the chat. Alexa says, so the original structure, like I was saying, the family lived here together, well, according to a 1709 tax assessment, there were also in this space, there were 2 enslaved people also in the space. Now, think about that. We're going to come back to it in just 1 second as people are placing their answers. Tage says 7, Colleen says 5. 3, 5, or 7, folks. Now, Louis the Builder, his son, Samuel, inherited the house in 1720, and then in 2 phases made it bigger and bigger, creating both a kitchen and like a cellar. The cellar, as with many of the other buildings along the street that we're looking at, is again probably where the enslaved African American or Africans would have ended up. Not in great conditions. Now, by the 1730s, the Eltings they're the ones that'll donate the library that we're going to see later on today. They first rent it from the Beavers, and then they finally purchase this building. Rebecca comes in with 5. Okay. And the Eltings were also slave owners, and they enslaved at least 6 individuals between 1789 and 1800. No doubt keeping them down in the cellar here as well. And the house remained in the Beaver Elting, in the Elting family until finally the historic Huguenot office building is right over there, until they finally purchased it in 1963. So it's a absolute prime and terrific example of the Dutch influence on this early New Paltz architecture. And it makes a lot of sense, because even though this was no longer New Netherlands at that point, and well and truly the colony of New York under British control, that Dutch influence still heavily present. So how many people was it? Well, you guys that said 7, Tay, Alexa, you guys are right. Yes, 7 people lived in the original one room together. But, extra points, it was probably 9. Before they had the cellar, they would have had their property, those enslaved African Americans or Africans, also staying in that one room with them. And it's a testament to the fact that back in the day, we just didn't spend a lot of time in our homes. Like, you were out working, you were out at and that's what you do at home. So no need for a large space. It's hot as a monkey out here, by the way. That's why I'm schwitzy. Okay. Beautiful building, although the roof feels like a little bit mossy. Yeah, Tage, I can't even get started on the slave stuff. It's a freaking heartbreaker, man. Oh, there's apparently, you can find the mortar seams to find where the extension house was. I'm going to say this is it right here, guys. Here is where the house is then built out from, and that this part of the house is the extension, but this part of the house was the original place where 7 family members and 2 enslaved people would have lived in. Not huge. And the reason why I think it's in the front is because, well, you would have had your house right closer to the street, right? Rather than set back on your property. So, All right, well, moving right along, here we have the, I'm going to say Dubois, but the American would say Du Bois. It is the Du Bois Fort Visitor Center, or the Dubois Fort Visitor Center. This structure that we're looking at here was built by Isaac Dubois, part of the, and originally constructed in 1705, or somewhere near about there, in a form very similar to the last house we were just at, the Beaver Elting house, using that kind of Dutch style, except that, look, it's a much larger house with 2 floors and balconies and all the rest. Well, that's because it was greatly enlarged in and around 1830. And that's when it gets the entire 2nd story, a kitchen wing. There's an attached carriage barn that we're going to see painted white. Oh, excuse me, not painted white, painted reddish brown in the back there. That's, yeah, you know, and the tiered porch also comes in at that time. And this one is open. There's a visitor center. You know, it is the visitor center. There's a museum shop. Oh, look, there's a tour going on over here. Oh, man. Should we go listen in on the tour a little bit? Well, we're going to get over there ourselves. We'll share their expert knowledge as well. That's little of the 1830 years. So we're still getting a good sense of what this place would have looked like. yeah, 190 years ago. Well, should we? You guys really want to stick your head in really quick? I think that I have to wear a mask to go in. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing one right now, and I have a feeling that the interior. Right. Or connection. Those things are so overbuilt. So the building was originally a residence. It became you know, a restaurant, place where you come and eat. And there we go. You can see that we are back again together. Sorry for the occasional lag there. So yeah, by the 1930s, this was a restaurant known as the Old Fort, and was managed by a local by the name of Oates, Elsie Oates. By Crans had taken over, and it was then continued a home-style-y kind of restaurant that if you're a New Paltzian, or if you're looking back on this and you're from New Paltz, you probably went here to the Old Fort. It's a great idea. Little souvenir houses would be lovely. And Rebecca, I tried to take a peek in just then to the museum shop, and it was literally, it looked like a prison cell with postcards. So there was not much, unfortunately, to see in that particular part of it. If I right now, you're gonna watch that part on YouTube later on once I post the video, because we're not gonna get in very far without stopping my little flimsy signal. You just want to see the gift shop, I bet. You don't even care about the interior of that house. Why do they call it a fort? These gun ports right here. Hello, Mr. Spider. You guys can see him. But these little gun ports right here, and then another gun port right over here. Was it used as a defensive fort? Maybe. I'm not sure. Could have been. Could have been that it was a place that people would gather at times. Threat. With the local Native Americans. They weren't as they bought the land. I mean, as far as people could understand the purchase of land, which of course but there had acres from those Esopus, Muncie, Lenape. So maybe they were able to live here pretty unaggressed upon, but nonetheless, much that in times of great need, you could retreat to that fort space with the community. So, well, what's going on over here is that the gentleman who's giving a small tour is talking about this replica wigwam that folks are going into right now. I'll give them their space and not bother them, because the last thing I want to do is get in the way of a guide while they're guiding. But in 2017, this wigwam was built here as a reminder of the fact that before Dutch, French, and British settlers would arrive, there were Native Americans in this exact place. of what their home might have looked like, what they'd been living in. Now, they weren't just here briefly before, but we have archaeological leftovers, ruins from early years. A bit weird. Hold on a second. Okay, you guys keep chatting amongst yourselves. You're more than welcome to. Oh my God! I gotta I have to kneel and crawl into this space. Oh, and I'm hitting my head on wigwam. People, I tell you what, this was not. Oh. All right, good. Now we've got a little bit better signal for a second. I'm in the wigwam. This is my first time in a wigwam. I can see where spider webs. I'm not a huge fan of spiders. Makes me a little bit curious about fireplace here would have kept us warm, and of course the low door to keep the heat from escaping, right? Just the smoke would get out, and hopefully you'd retain a lot of that heat. Well, the thing that always kind of gets my goat about little things like that, but it's great that they built this wigwam here to remind people that the Munsee, Esopus, Lenape people were here before a bunch of white colonists from Europe, people from Africa, to take this land over. It's weird when you then talk about how these native people actually live in Wisconsin now, because that's where they live now. They're in Wisconsin. I mean, they were resettled there. They were forced off their land, if they're lucky they got a casino later on, but for the most part they were just killed, right? Are killed by invading colonists, either through disease or put to the gun. And that's a struggle for me always, to be like, oh, great, well, it's really nice that you built them a wigwam here to remember them, but why not reparations or something? Here, I'm gonna swap with you guys, let you guys in.
Oh, that's okay, we'll look from out here.
Oh, I mean, honestly, it's such an no, it's like a mosquito and spider haven in there, but
okay.
No. and hot, but it's still it's the experience, Whew. Oh my gosh, so hot. God, that was okay. Onwards. Well, what we're looking at over here is the day. And in fact, this is the one that pissed the community off so much. They said, we're going to make a preservationist society. Because you can see the base of this being that old Dutch stone style, but you clearly have, someone's put a queen house, on top of it, on the second and third floors. And that didn't enthuse the city elders one little bit, despite the fact that the house was continuously owned by the same family and their descendants for over 200 years, the Deo family. Hundreds has this a modest 2-room Dutch farmhouse, so think stone bricks down at the bottom. It was finally in the late 1800s that the estate was inherited by Abraham. And Abraham Deo Broadhead, a prosperous local businessman, he had the cash to the building, which is what he set about doing, along with his also a Deo descendant. I should have checked it. I don't know how closely related they were, but always interesting when you're marrying a cousin or closer. They transformed and modern Queen Anne revival. And like I was saying, colonial house got people up in a bother. This controversy of the Huguenot patriotic society. That's what they first called themselves. Today we know them and their headquarters just around the corner as the historic Huguenot Street group, team, LLC, org, I don't know, but historic Huguenot Street. I mean, they were literally created to keep Abraham Deos from doing things like this again. Like, that is their job. So, I mean, and to provide great information for walking tours, like the one that you guys are on right now. So, thank you again, historic Huguenot Street. This is what they would call a porte cochère, or a carriage porch. And the idea here, this little architectural feature here, is so that way when you were getting dropped off on your carriage, right, you wouldn't have to get wet or snowed on. And not just that, you wouldn't have to get down because, boom, this board didn't used to be here. That's new, right? And you would just step off your carriage onto the porch, as your carriage would have been. Tage writes, Queen Anne Victorian is my fave, building on top of stone, not big fan. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, it worked for the Deos, right? And if you got Deo money, you know, the kind of money that lets you marry your cousin without anyone even batting an eyelid at it. I don't know if that's true or not, guys. I don't know if they actually married their cousins, but could have been. I have that feeling. I'm getting that sense. All right, well, walking along, then the Jean Hasbrook House. Hasbrook House, oh, by the way, I can already see we're going to end up going a little bit later than I thought, okay? So apologies. We're not going to do a take one, take two, but we do need an extra 10-15 minutes, above an hour, for us to get this done right. And I'll tell you what, guys, I drove over 2 hours to get. That's all right. So, Fastback House, it was built in 1721 for Jacob Hasbrook. Please do not look at the wrong sign. It's actually famous. The State Education Department of 1935 did not do their research properly, and they have numbers wrong on all these blue signs. So don't believe anything on these blue signs from the 1930s. So, built in 1721. It was actually built for the son of Anna Deo, and John Hasbrook, right? Jacob Hasbrook was a little kid. It's considered to be one of the most remarkable historic houses. Get rid of this. Get ready for this, guys. Not just in New Paltz, not just in New York State, not just in the Northeast, but in the entire United States of America. God bless them. If you believe in God, whether it's a Catholic God or a Huguenot God, whatever God you want to have faith in. So, thank you so much, Tage. Reading your words, I believe only Chris Sandeman, written in your mother's YouTube account. Just me deeply, thank you. So, well, it's a massive and distinctive Hudson Valley Dutch architectural building, clearly setting it apart. This was not made more later on in time. This was made a lot from the very beginning, right from its outset. When you go inside and visit this space, you're going to learn all about the early New Paltz community and through to the American Revolution. It is absolutely an amazing building. I'll be honest with you guys. Both old, but also just so big and laid out. You can see what must be old, part of the old. Or so it's really cool building, really neat features, and you can get window doors open up. Super cool. We got a stone monument to the Historical Society. Unveiled this grand stone monument. Shawangunk Mountains. Why? What are they trying to say here to you? They're trying to convey three simple ideas: strength, permanence, and sustainability. Although, sustainability and permanence, is that not kind of, I guess they're different, but they're pretty similar. They were trying to say to us. So, according to Ralph Lefebvre, who is not related to Menard Lefebvre, the architect that we know and love from Brooklyn Heights, Ralph Lefebvre, who is one of the Historical Society's founding members, said that the monument was not pretty, but he believed it nonetheless the finest boulder monument in the United States. Would you say Mount Rushmore is a boulder monument? Nah, I guess not. It's carved out of stone, whereas this is a boulder monument. So whether you believe that or not is your choice. We're going to continue on. Ooh. Where am I? Where am I? I feel like I'm following this tour. We're just gonna slip by him. Tourism. Tourism's happening. He seems like a good guide. He's got his stuff together. I like it. So we're walking through a graveyard, which seems appropriate here on Friday the 13th. This building that we're looking at is which was a focal point for the early New Paltz community. The original French Reformed congregation was founded in 1683 in a simple primitive log structure. But what we're looking at from 1717 is this stone church that was used by the Huguenot families for both worship and actually education, because it doubled as a school. The burial ground that I'm going to spin around to now, it has the remains of many of the early members of the New Paltz community, and continue to be used all the way through till around the 1850s. So we'll get some more information about them. Yep, 1864. I said 1850s. No, 1864 is when it was actually used until. Only one of the original 12 founding fathers are buried here. Of their spouses and descendants are in this space, and we can just look at some of the names, and it starts to come together. And here, indeed, Dubois or Du Bois and Maria Hasbuck. Names, we've heard this one too. Margaret Deo, our good friends, the Deos. And I mean, you don't sound much. 1616, born Geretja Gerste Nieuwekerk. Boom. All right, let's continue. See if I can't. Oh, wait. Apparently, in the left corner, there's a special. Let's take a look at it over here really fast. Stone. This unique headstone has an engraving that reads, as you can see, Sankofa under this bird image. So although the community didn't use this burying ground after 1864, like we were just saying, there was one in 2013. A small crowd gathered to rebury human remains that were uncovered in the house on Huguenot Street, where we just were. Upon examining the remains, a physical anthropology professor from SUNY New Paltz. SUNY is the State University of New York, and there's New Paltz is a university town, like we were saying. They determined that the remains belonged to an African male who died somewhere between the ages of 20 and 50. It's possible that this man himself was enslaved by the Deo family and buried on their property after his death. So, the inscription beneath Sankofa says, "It is not wrong to go back for that which you have forgotten," which is a translation from a Ghanaian proverb. Yeah. So, a nice small mentioning of what was most person who was buried unceremoniously in a unmarked grave behind the. Hey, no problem, Ross. Sorry that I've gone long. Oh, you're back now. Oh yeah. Good thing, brother. No worries. You know how it is. I don't expect you guys to watch all the time. Thanks for leaving the laptop running. From Tage about what these small stones could mean. And Alexa says, it's sad how much of the U.S. was built on slavery. Gosh, well, Alexa first, I mean, I can't echo that statement more accurately. I mean, it's horrific to think that not just the South and cotton and, indigo, rice and all those industries, but that the North and flour and grain and all these farmlands were, maybe not plantations of hundreds of slaves, but people had their 5 to 6 slaves. And it really makes you think, like, were we really that hardworking as colonists? Like, or did we really need someone else to do the work for us? And it's kind of sad. Like, both in the fact that it's awful to think that we got ahead through slavery, but also to think that there's no I think slavery really undercuts American excellence. That's what I'm trying to say here. How excellent are you if you need to get other people? Sorry. To get enslaved black people to work on, something's going on. Got to think about that stuff. Well, we were talking about, it is Friday the 13th, right? Here we are walking through our good old Huguenot land, and we haven't really talked about where the name Huguenot comes from, even. And that's worth trying to figure out. I got 3 different ideas for you guys about why they're called Huguenots. One, a Dutch word, actually. And that Dutch word, bear with me just 1 second, I gotta pull it back up again real fast, because I'm not a good Dutch speaker, are Huisgenoten. 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 Housemates, right? Maybe. A lot of those Huguenots flee from France, and they make their way to supportive Protestant Holland or Netherlands, and they are your new Huisgenoten, your new housemates. Makes sense. Maybe it's actually a bastardization of the German word Eingenosse. Eingenosse is a confederate, kind of like a Genosse, like a comrade. Yeah, confederate comrade. But there's another instead, and that is, and I really like this one because it's a little bit unclear as to the actual origins. We're not really 100% sure, but it would have been strange in the 1600s for French people in the south of France especially to be using the word Huguenot and it be a Dutch or a German word. So there's another chance, another origin or etymology possibility, which is that actually Huguenot comes from Hugon. And a Hugon is someone that and it was believed at the time in the 1600s in France that if your soul did not pass on to heaven or down to hell, and you did not go to purgatory to serve out your time, then what would end up happening is that you would be damned to wander the night and haunt, right? Now, Huguenots, or as they called themselves, the Reformed, because even Protestant was sort of a derogatory term, someone who protests. They called themselves the Reformed. And Huguenot, ultimately, not a nice word probably, if you take the French version, because it basically, the not at the end of the Hugon is a diminutization of the Hugon. And the Hugon is someone that, wanders the night and maybe is a spirit wandering the night, damned to purgatory or damned outside of purgatory. And that they're, and the connection to it is that, of course, the Huguenots themselves, because they were trying to hide the fact that they were Protestants, were practicing religion largely at night. And that's what they were kind of known for doing as well, because if you practice in the daylight, everyone's outside your door with a burning torch, right? But if it's nighttime and you can be secretive about it, you can hide the fact that you're a little bit funky and you're a Protestant, and hence, yeah, Huguenot. That's the one that I think is the best one and is probably most accurate, because they were worshiping at night, and also there's some derogatory action of your ghost people haunting us in the evenings. Anyway, Huguenots. Okay. So we've actually gotten through to the end of our good old historical street here, and I want to take you guys down to the the haunted library space. Maybe some of you have seen the video that I placed up on online. I'm just sorry, really quick. I'm just plodding my way to the library. Bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves as you look down this great road. And there's the Elting Memorial Library. Just giving myself a little direcciones. Okay, 8-minute walk. Let's do it. So, like I was saying, if you haven't yet watched the video that I posted up on Facebook and YouTube in the comment section, YouTube by simply searching New Paltz Haunted Library. And there's a 33-second long video which will make you have to ask the question of yourself, maybe in ghosts. Walk down that way, turn back around and go back this way. So the video, some sort of something moving around on the screen. And it's really unclear as to what that something is. Figured some sort of bug that was in there. But the thing that threw them off when they really started to crank their noggins around it was that when you look at the video again, if the spider or the skeeter or whatever bug it was, if it had been outside of the camera lens, because the camera actually had like a plastic globe around it to keep exactly this from happening. Well, at that distance, even a couple of centimeters or inches away, you should have been able to see some spot on the video where the video was completely blocked out, right? Where there was just some solid matter, the center of the spider. You should have had one, at least little bit of it that was clearly spider. So that throws them off. And they're like, how'd that happen? Why aren't we seeing something solid in there? It could have been a wigwam spider, suggests Alexa. I mean, they look pretty have a little Native American heritage in them. Native Americans were sneaky, but resourceful. Or maybe so light of foot that it was able to. But at the end of the day, this raises the question, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. What we're looking at here is a trail, actually, that we're going to cross right now. I thought I would be in a different location and be able to walk along the trail just a little bit with you guys, but this trail is the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail. It used to be a railroad that was that ran along this trail space, but they converted and pulled up that railroad and instead have made a 22.5 mile, that's about 36.5 kilometer trail and linear park that runs that former Wallkill Valley Railroad rail corridor through Ulster County. So it goes through Gardner, through New Paltz, through Rosendale, through Ulster, and to the Kingston City line, actually. There are 2 state prisons that kind of break up the trail at one point. That's exciting because nothing says fun like hiking along a not populated trail near prisons. Yeah, the goal is to connect this trail with other regional trails as well. So if you're coming up to Hudson Valley, New York, and you want to do a little hiking, boom, hiking box check right there. So, all right, continue with the ghost story. Because we're heading over to the library. Well, a librarian opened in the morning, found the door had been left ajar. When is a door not a door? When it's ajar. The librarians reviewed the security tape, and they were able to reveal this approximately 3 really describe across the room, if you will, and eventually disappearing through the east wall. Was that, well, maybe it was a shadow playing away, or maybe it was a ghost. Now, the curiosity for the librarians didn't cease there. Of course, immediately, being the researchers that they are, good librarians, they start to look and see, have there been any murders? Or had there been any deaths at the library? Was there something else there for us to know or learn about? Sure enough, there was deaths documented in the house that would become the library, both in 1899, when the owner of the house would die in it. His wife would then take it upon herself to open in 1900, and in 1908, has a stroke, and then dies from the stroke a couple of days later. So there were deaths here. Interesting name. That is your name. We're moving away. I don't want you on my YouTube. Gonna walk away. Okay, we got it. With a sound. I'm not gonna let that happen. Okay. So, well, the video gets put up in March of 2008, and 5 months after, and within just 7 months, the video will have been seeing 300,000, about 50 times the population of New Paltz at the same time. So clearly a lot of interest there, but ultimately unresolved. Was this old building, an old stone Elting house after its original owner and builder, as part of the expansion away from our good old Huguenot Street, where we've just left, which was the original settlement. Now we're expanding into larger New Paltz. And this building was built over here as one of the earliest buildings on what would become Main Street. The time that it was erected was the same time that the village of New Paltz was being officially incorporated. Library, or excuse me, of the building, the house that we're about to see, made it ideal as a library because it was so central. The old New Paltz Free Library, which had been founded by the New Paltz Study Club in 1909, no longer big enough, needed to expand outwards, and this is And this is what they got. Wait a second. Is this the building? Nope. I'm looking at a Chase Bank. Welcome, guys, to what's known as my first time in New Paltz. This is the library. Although, didn't this building want to be the library? Felt like that building was so much, but no. This is the old Dutch brick building. So for those of you who've had a chance to look at the video at this point, if you have checked it out, please start commenting. Let me know. Does it look like a wigwam spider to you, Alexa? Is it just a dust speck, Rebecca? Tage, are you seeing white orbs right now? Little globes? Faces in the windows? At least 400,000 or so people by now have thought the video worth looking at long enough to try to make up the mind for themselves. Is this building haunted? Now, whether it's haunted or not, the fact is that there is a lot of information here about who used to own all of these old buildings. And the librarians here are on record of saying two things. The first one is, if you live in an old building in New Paltz, there's an incredibly good chance that someone died in that building. Because old buildings, people died in them, right? People wouldn't go to the hospital in the old days to die, right? They die at home. So people died in your building. The second thing is then that students from SUNY New Paltz, the state university, when they move into an old building and they hear something go bump in the night, to do their research and discover in the old records whether or not someone had died in the building or not. And discover that yes, people had died. Let's see, I'm really sorry. Oh, it says, oh, hi there. Oh, go for it. To the mask.
All right, see you next time.
All right, guys. Up. Are libraries intrinsically a little spooky and haunted? Or did Ghostbusters make them so? Maybe these are just actors. What are they called again? Reading in libraries. Hey there.
Really does.
And then I'll see my doctor just before. Question what I should put on the report.
Okay. All right, went an hour and 26. That was longer than I expected. But we did it. Congratulations. You did it. You made it. Founded in 6. Not refugees. Had come all the way from Calais to Die Paltz to Wildwijk to New Paltz. We've checked out a large part of this town, and I'm gonna let you guys, I gotta go, right? So that you can go live your Fridays. But for those of you who want to just continue for a second with me, you're more than welcome to. And we're just gonna walk down and over and around kind of the main street of not historical New Paltz, but today New Paltz. This kind of hippie community, which let's take a quick look. But for those of you who want to go now, it's time. You can officially say, I'm out. It's always a pleasure. Hey, if you're watching this video, Friday the 13th, and you're probably watching. It's a different day. Watching live over on YouTube. More people find. Sorry. One of these. Gotta get on it. These shirts. Okay, Michaela is still with me. We got B-Side Grill over here. This is the Main Street Bistro. It's where I had a chicken sandwich. Casey's Sunny Sandwich. It was delicious. You really get a feeling that you're no longer in New York City when it's $9.99 for a sandwich with fries, and it's good. Petty Teddy Outfitters. That's fun, right? It's a cool spot. Thank you. Staff there. Zaytoon, Mediterranean place. This sign telling us where things are nearby. You guys can see that with the backlighting. Rosendale, actually where my mom and grandmother live right now, amazingly. Pretty close to here. Did I haven't just, that wasn't the whole town, right? Well, how about that? I think that I've just cut through like the majority of the old town. Wow, that was a lot shorter and smaller. You only here. Wait. Let's take away a power of 10. So for 1,400 people, I guess it's not the smallest town out there. Still pretty small. I'd expected in that last little bit. This way and that way. The Ridge Tea Shop and Pilates of New Paltz. Over there, Huguenot Realty Company. So the Huguenots are still present, which is also a positive. All right, I'm gonna go. We've seen a little bit of New Paltz. We've seen a little bit of that library, and we've seen a whole bunch of old Dutch-style Huguenot-built houses. I've got that internet connection again right now. Krause's chocolates and grinds and grains of New Paltz, Arrowwood Outpost Farm. Looks like I might have a beer or something to rehydrate. I guess beer's not the right one, but yes, Ross, looking forward to seeing you. And Island to see you soon. TV show recently. Belts home community for its incredible and there same time, different location. Hot, hot, hot. I'm with Michaela. I think it's gonna be, I'm gonna combine Alexa and something like that. Right, I'm underneath this my internet connection, but I can see that I'm lagging. I just want to be able to say goodbye to you guys without a little lag, but I've got bad service. There we go. All right, service is back. And now from this parking lot, the famous Huguenot parking lot. No, not true. I will say a final goodbye. Tage, thank you. Michaela, thank you. Maybe see you tomorrow. Alexa, you're the best. Ross, couldn't do it without you and Nikki's support. Rebecca, thank you so much. Eric, always great to see you tuning in from the deep west coast, Hawaii, Maui. And we're on. Always a pleasure. I love your support. Yeah. Post this video on YouTube. Delays and lags. It'll be called No Lag. Rebecca, yeah, cool, man. Right? New Paltz. It's awesome. It's just so much amazing history up and down the Hudson Valley. First areas in North America to be settled by European colonists. So, all right, I can feel my lips are dry. I'm gonna get some water. All right, guys, ciao for now. Talk to you soon.